All right, so should we tell everybody like what the heck we're doing here besides the turning our phones on again? It's been a little bit, right?
It's been a hot second.
So it's
A hot or not second?
You remember that meme? Like, wasn't that in the 90s?
There was like 2000s? The hot or not, and you'd like swipe, and it would give you a rating.
It was like the precursor to Tinder.
And if you were really vain, like maybe some people are, you try a bunch of pictures to figure out which one was the,
So you could select your outfit for the evening.
Exactly.
So this is kind of like that for houses.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so it's October,
the housing market. We're talking about the housing market in Austin.
Housing market, yeah.
And not whether or not we'd swipe left or right. I don't know.
Yeah, our egos around how hot we look.
Or not.
But there's a group of people out there who are like, yeah, I remember that. You know who you are.
You know who you are.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome, guys. So usually what we do is when we're talking about the Austin market, we'll go over the general Austin market. Mm-hmm. And for that, just for the sake of having stats that we can really speak to, we focus on single family homes with an Austin address, right?
Got to have something to compare to, and it seemed like a good.
It seemed like a decent one to go with. But happy to get you any other statistic that would make sense for you, and then we'll zoom in on South Austin, since we live.
Because we're partial.
We live in South Austin.
We can do North Austin one, I guess, but I'm a Southern boy.
Yeah, you are. I'm a Seattle pasty girl. I don't know.
Yeah, you are.
But 17 years here in Austin, I've got a tan for.
You have for a redhead.
For a redhead, I have a tan.
You got more freckles. All right, let's talk real estate. Should we do that?
Oh my gosh, sure. Let's do that.
Okay, let's start with Austin then.
Yeah, Austin. So
numbers.
Larger Austin area. So in the month of September, because obviously we can't do October stats till the end of October, but in the month of September there were 2,812 active homes in the city of Austin with the Austin address.
Ooh, do you want to give them some historical context?
Yeah, I mean, like, if you're just going over last year, we're down number of available homes 4.4%, a little over 4%. If you're comparing it to last month, we're down about 1%. So our number of actives isn't gone anywhere drastic in the last year, comparing September to September. But
I think this is fun. Now, everyone always likes waiting for this crash to happen. I've been talking about crashes for years now. They're not coming. Or
they are, or they aren't. Yeah. Whether or not.
I don't think there's one here yet, and we'll talk about that later. But just for comparison, in 2008, the height of the crisis, there were 4,079 homes for sale on average in 2008. And this is, it's less than that. Right.
Yeah.
Well, naturally, because we don't have a ton of inventory lying around, but it's about 25% less, right?
Yeah. And we have a much higher population, and there are many more homes, so that as a percentage of the market, that is less.
But so we're not near those kind of crazy issues. Also, Austin, as far as the big crash was concerned, didn't really take it on the chin as bad as a lot of other markets did.
Well, and most zip codes were recovered in price within about 3 years. Yep. A lot of them within 2, but it just depended on the zip code. Then
that's our second stat, which is from 2010 to 2018. This number, like the average number of homes for sale in any given month, was 3,129.
Yeah.
So we're just a tiny bit, 10%.
And that's that same.
Yeah. Below that.
Yeah, exactly. So we're still below average for the 10 years, or I guess that's 8 or 9 years between 2010 and 2018.
But we've got a bigger population.
We do have a bigger population.
So inventory really hasn't exploded. Right?
It hasn't. I mean, what we're seeing though is that there are less people buying. There are just less people able to buy at current rates.
Yeah. So you want to talk about that one?
Yeah, exactly. So we're all talking right now about the entirety of Austin, single family homes, and there were 618 sales of that 2,812 number. So if you think about that's about 4.5 months of inventory if things continue to sell at 618 single family homes.
Yeah. Remember when our inventory was like a month?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it got down to a week.
Yeah, I think a week or two.
Yeah,
really
exactly.
Frighteningly small.
Bizarrely low. And comparing that to last year, we are down 17.5%. In total number of sales. Again, rates. And also, if you remember properly, last year, I believe we took a little bit of a dip in rates, which is considered a good thing for buyers, around this time of year. So I bet you there was a kip up as in response to that. And then, and even just month over month of this year, we're down 25%.
Yeah.
So that comes
into it's a steep seasonality thing. So we're coming into the winter, right? And just like Game of Thrones, winter's coming.
Winter's coming.
It's here. I almost wore a sweater this morning. It was like
yeah, but then
70 degrees.
But then you realized you were mildly sweating and decided not to.
But I wore long pants today. Anyway, winter. We're coming into the end of the year, so we're seeing a drop in activity for sure, and we still have high rates. The Fed has said we're still going to do another rate increase this year. So buyers have really just backed off because the cost of the money is so expensive. So right now it is certainly more difficult to sell.
Yeah.
But if you want to wait till spring when more buyers come out, and then maybe we'll have lower rates next year, who knows when that will happen, you still have those carrying costs. So you just kind of have to weigh those two as to which is more important to you.
Definitely. And if you are able to buy right now, in general, you're getting a discount to compensate for how awful rates are and the fact that there aren't a lot of buyers who can buy at the rates that are at right now.
So cash buyers they're doing great.
Cash buyers are doing great. Yeah. High down payment people are doing great. The issue being, obviously, that means the people who already have a ton of money are much more able to buy than the people who are getting their first home and such, and the people that lead to a fleshed out home buying society. But, that is a whole other conversation.
Yeah, like 20% down, affordable payment. That's kind of the goal, right?
The goal, right? Yeah. Dream. So South Austin. Let's zoom in on the South.
Before we get there.
Oh, wait, yeah.
We got to do the median price.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Good call.
The median price in all of Austin is a paltry $600,000. I remember when it was in the threes when I first moved here.
I remember when it was in the threes. Yeah, and even kind of lower threes.
I'm still kind of surprised that number is still that high.
Yeah.
And it's the same as it was last year.
Definitely. Same, like September to September, that number stayed at 600. And it's down 15K from August of this year. So in other words, seasonality, that whole 25% less sales, that's going to affect things.
Yes, but even with the higher rates, prices are not falling off a cliff.
Yeah.
Because, people are just hesitant to give up and, lose money on a house.
There's still a lot of people who want to
bought previously, right? Yeah. So prices are, they're trying to come down, and we're seeing some more concessions. I see a lot more emails with price drops and seller ready to sell.
Yeah.
But just the stats are the stats, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
South Austin?
South Austin. And when we talk about South Austin, we're talking about 78745, 78748, 78749, and 78739. So basically, Central Austin, South of Ben White, and then Southwest Austin, this west of Mopac.
Yeah, so we had to pick 4 zip codes. If we got too big, then it would just be Buda, right?
It's not Buda.
No.
Right.
Well, we had to pick something. So anyway, this is what we've always been using. So it's kind of like a stick in the water. Like how wet is it, right? Okay, so active listings, we've got 414 down from 507 the year before.
Yeah, wow.
Which is also an 18% drop. And that's compared to a 4.4% drop in Austin. So a much bigger drop than the city at large. And
that active amount actually stayed pretty much exactly the same between August and September of this year. It went down 2 homes. 5%.
So it was 416 last month.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so about the same.
Exactly. And contrast that to sales.
Yep. So sales, we had 121 in September compared to the previous year was 149.
Yep.
So we had fewer sales, and then last month we had 176. So actually, still also a drop, of 32% drop. So seasonality is more pronounced this year than previous years.
But it's interesting to see that what we're going to say that the active listings are down much more in South Austin than they are in overall Austin. But yet the percentage drop in number of sales is pretty comparable. Yeah,
well, you think about it. If prices really haven't moved that much year over year, people are hesitant to sell their houses for less, and they still have the cheap money from before. Yeah. So people are just stuck and like, look, why would I sell? I've got my cheap payment, and that's gonna keep inventory from moving for quite some time, right?
And with Austin's population expected to continue to go up, that makes some sense on their part. So I can understand everybody's motivations.
Right. Well, anecdotally, like if you look at new construction, so new construction was booming when prices were high, right? Yeah. It was like build. The problem is it takes a while to get a building done.
Yep.
And so right now, building permits have fallen off a cliff, right? Yeah. So there are no new permits, like my own building business included. I'm not buying anything right now, although land prices are starting to get to the point where I'm going like, maybe that would work.
Yeah.
But in the short term, like right now, they're not there yet because we're looking at falling prices and the land prices just aren't going down fast enough to make up for it. Plus, you add the uncertainty of like, what's it going to do? So I expect that will probably pick up as soon as the Fed drops the rates middle of next year. That'll be the trough, and then that's where a lot of builders will pick up land and bring stuff to market in a year, after which, rates come down some or the Fed starts a loosening cycle, then you'll see that pick back up.
Well, and land is much more likely to be purchased with either a higher percentage down or fully cash.
Yep.
So it's interesting to think how that plays in with the higher interest rates and such and
Yeah,
all those factors.
Builders still are looking at the end going, hey, who's going to buy this thing when I'm done building it? Right, and so they're thinking, what's the interest payments? What's the price that I can get?
Yeah.
And so the build cost plus the land they're trying to get that beneath the market price. Yeah. And so the land is, one of the big expenses. And so if the land isn't priced right, they know what their current build costs are. They're like, well, why would I buy it to break even?
Yeah, 100%.
So that applies to apartment buildings, small developers, medium developers, everybody.
How does that influence the median sale price for South Austin?
Well, guess what? It's also the exact same.
Yeah, isn't that really interesting? So it stayed the same between September of last year and September of this year as well.
$525.
$525.
So cheaper than the rest of the city.
I mean, it's down $19,000 from August to September, and that doesn't necessarily have to mean that those same homes are dropping price. It can mean that, but it could also just mean that the cheaper homes are the ones that are selling, that sort of thing. So again, when you're focused on median home price, it's easy to assume that means everybody's dropping their prices. And I mean, there are a lot of price drops going on right now. But it's a strong reaction to rates, and the Fed's just really trying to hedge against inflation, and it makes sense from where they're standing. But man, it definitely puts a hurting on people's ability to get into their first house and such. So
yeah, so winter's going to last for at least another 3 months.
Yeah,
well, October, November, December.
Yep.
So if you're an investor, I mean, you can always just buy in October and sell in June, right?
Yeah.
There's a pretty big swing in prices between those 2 months. And so we're coming into those
Well, and it's
months.
interesting because we lost that seasonality during the craze of 2020, 2021.
Yeah, the curves like flattened out. They just kind of went up.
Yeah.
Remember when we were talking about 10% appreciation per month?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, and what's interesting about that, John pointed this out to me, that if you do a chart of where price growth was in Austin and median home price, and then it goes for all that time.
It makes like the camel hump.
It does, and then it comes back down to basically exactly where it would have been, to continue along the line that it was, projected on before.
Yeah, for like a long-term projection. Yeah.
Exactly. So again, if you hold on to something that you purchased, and this is something we said all during that boom, is don't buy now if you don't plan on owning for a little while, because we don't know exactly what the market's going to do. But historically in Austin, if you hold on to it for 3, max 5 years, you've gone up in price.
I wouldn't say max 5, like hold on to the baby forever.
If you can, that would be nice.
Just refinance.
But
1031 it. Not if it's your personal home.
So that's interesting to look at. That really, it's just a more steady trajectory upwards instead of the crazy and such. So
yeah. So if you bought at the peak and you're feeling a little nervous, like time heals all wounds.
Yeah.
Just wait. You've got a cheap rate.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Thank God for the cheap rate on that one.
And just wait until the market recovers and continues to escalate. And so as long as Austin is a growth city, which it is, demographics will save you every time.
Well, and what's interesting too is you see a lot more lenders coming up with innovative programs to get people cheaper rates. That a lot of builders are giving, their own loans to be able to give people cheaper rates to be able to get inventory moved.
There's more seller financing out there.
There's more seller financing. There's more transferable notes happening, things like that. So there really are opportunities for buyers who want to get into something now while prices are down. To make it happen. It's just a little bit more complicated and involved than it would have been.
Creative.
Yeah, exactly. But not like a 2008 creative way.
Oh yeah, there's some really creative shit
Not
going
like
on.
I have no income and I own 3 houses creative way.
Yeah.
Creative like, maybe we try new builds way. That sort of thing. So anyway, thank you guys so much for listening to us babble on about real estate statistics.
Stats. More stats, like shots, except stats. I don't think you can get quite as excited about stats as you could shots, at least in my 20s.
I thought you were going for like Leroy Jenkins, like dips. Anyway.
We totally switched memes right there. Like that.
Geeks!
Leroy shots.
Nerds.
Stats. All right. We better quit while we're ahead, if we're ahead.
If you want any more information, stats, ideas on when things might be worth selling,
Shots.
ideas on how you could buy.
It's not that type of show, sorry.
No. Please feel free to reach out. We really do love being useful, being helpful. And we'll see you guys soon.
Okay, now go hit the button while I show them a picture of a kitten.
Yeah. Kitten.
I shouldn't have made that promise. I can't show them a picture of a
You
kitten.
can't do that.
I'll edit it in there. In the meantime, here's my best kitten impression.